You know, some people out there, when they talk, they fake the funk. You want brutally honest? Well, if you want brutally honest, look no further than CG Ruthless Sports.
CG Ruthless.
CG Ruthless Sports.
CG Ruthless.
If you want your sports talk to be brutally honest, come check out CG.
CG Ruthless.
If you're not watching CG Ruthless, I don't know what to tell you. Representing the Niner Empire.
CG Ruthless.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Amin The Dream and Samdogg The Infamous 253, and last but not least, Norbcam.
What's up?
So tell me where you guys can find your social media platform, but I'll go with Norbcam first.
Oh, well, thank you. What's up, everybody? This is Norb Kawili, also known as Norbcam, on YouTube and social media, talking all about the Seahawks, do vlogs, music videos, entertainment sketches, and game reactions. So if you want to see more about the Seahawks, just check me out at Norbcam. That's social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. So thanks, CG, for having me on. Appreciate it.
No problem, bro. And let's go on Samdogg, where they can find you at, man.
How's everybody doing? I'm Samdogg, the Infamous 253. That's where you can find me on YouTube. I don't like to really give out other social media because I'm a private guy, but I'm a season ticket holder for the Seahawks since 2004 with my dad, and usually I like to do player interactions before all these Seahawks home games and interact with the players, get autographs, and usually I like to do player interactions. I do game picks with my buddy Dallas on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, depending on how we're really feeling. Sometimes Wednesdays at the latest. And then during the off season, I go to Redmond Town Center. I do a bunch of off of football. I do a bunch of exotic car videos up there too. So those are always cool during the football off season, and a couple of rap concerts then and there. But anyway, just grateful to be on CG and glad to be doing this once again.
Oh, I think CG's muted. So yeah, my name is Amin The Dream. What's up? I'm a Niners fan. You can find me at Amin The Dream on YouTube, and then my Twitter handle is at Amin The Dream 13. I talk 49ers and NFL news and stuff like that, and just 49ers and game previews and stuff like that on my channel. So go check it out.
All right, I'm going to get the late. All right, so let's get on to the debate of the NFC West with the Niners and Seahawks. The situation with the 49ers and Seattle are completely the opposite, don't you say? But let's get on to the thoughts of it. So I'm going to let Samdogg go first on this one.
Well, obviously, things have gone completely south for the Seahawks this year. Injuries, not having Chris Carson, but mainly just for me, it's coaching with how bad the coaching's been and how bad Russell Wilson's play has been lately. A lot of trade rumors coming up. We don't know what's going to happen this offseason, but it's been pretty bad. Wilson's having the worst year of his season, and we haven't had a 4-game losing streak since 2011. The last time we were pretty bad, worse than 3-8, was about the 2011 season, but it is what it is, and we just got to tough it out from our perspective. So not the year that most Seahawks fans have been wanting.
Okay, we'll go on to The Dream.
Seattle has been struggling this year. Coming into the season, I thought Seattle was going to compete to win the NFC West. I thought they were going to be at least second or third in the division, and right now they're fourth, which I never expected coming into the season. And obviously that Russell Wilson with his finger injury definitely was a huge loss for the Seattle Seahawks, because Russell Wilson pretty much, if you look at the Seahawks without Russell Wilson, pretty much Seattle is a rebuilding team, but since you had Russell Wilson the last couple of years, Russell Wilson would take you to the playoffs. The Seattle Seahawks would win 10 plus games every year, and they would make it to the playoffs. But the Russ injury this year pretty much derailed the Seahawks season this year, so I feel like it's a mixture of Russ and that coaching.
All right, Norbcam, you're next.
So, yeah, it's like you guys said, it's been a bizarre season, to say the least. Definitely never saw this coming. I thought we'd be, like Amin said, competing for first, second, third at least, that it would be this big battle between the Rams, the 49ers, and the Seahawks. And I don't think any of us predicted that the Cardinals would have the season that they're having, where they're just like dominating everybody. Even with injuries, they're still running away with games. So that's been the big surprise. But the bigger surprise really is just how badly the Seahawks have been playing. And even week to week, injury aside, even before Russell Wilson had his finger injury, he was already struggling. The offense was already having their issues. They had a great first game against the Colts, looked like the team we wanted to see. And then the first half against the Tennessee Titans, we were up 17-0. And statistically speaking, the Seahawks almost always win when they're at least a 10-point lead at the half. And they had 17. They had 17 going into the fourth quarter, believe it or not. And we still lost that game in overtime. And that sort of started the downward trend, really, because that game we should have won. Of all the games we've lost this season, there have been many we've lost. That was one of the worst losses we had, and it would have been the second game of the season, would have been the opener at home with a win, and it didn't go our way, but a lot of it was already because of our inability to stay on the field, convert third downs. I think if we'd gotten 1 or 2 first downs in that game, we would have won that game, but the offense just disappeared in the second half, and then Derrick Henry just took off and became a bowling ball, just running us over, and then it's just kind of been a continuation from there, and we've never really recovered. Our offense has struggled, with the exception of playing you guys, the 49ers, in Santa Clara, and then against Jacksonville, we looked good, and that was without Russell Wilson. So it's been weird that we haven't won a game since Halloween, and Russell Wilson hasn't won a game since the last time we played the 49ers, and that's how bad it's been. We have not seen this type of epic collapse in quite a while, and we're kind of, it feels like everybody's just out of answers. Pete Carroll doesn't seem to know what to say. Russell Wilson says the same stuff, but the same results keep happening week to week to week. So for us to go into this game against the Niners, against your team on Sunday, it's hard to think of how are we going to do anything different from what we've been doing, because it's been like a bad Groundhog's Day game after game after game of just the same mistakes over and over. So at some point, I think we're going to pull one where we go, wow, they actually cleaned up some stuff. Will it be this Sunday? Who knows?
All right. Let's see. All right, so the way I thought of it, like, Seattle, they would always be more competitive. They would always be the kind of team that gives you problems with lesser talent, and it's surprising that they're just falling off a little bit. Who would have thought their last win was against the Jaguars with Geno Smith? The last time Russell Wilson did win a game was against us, but now he's playing with a broken finger, and the Niners are on a winning streak. The fact that the record's the other way around, it's kind of shocking that you would not expect the Arizona Cardinals to be the top of the division. And then the Rams are kind of in there too, but then they're falling off too a little bit. So you're kind of surprising that the NFC West is a mystery. You got 3 of these teams competing for that playoff spot. Well, Seattle's kind of like in the below of the division. You would expect some competitive spirits, but it's not the case in Seattle. So let's think of the expectation of the matchup. The preview, when we look at the matchup between the Niners and Seahawks, the Seattle Seahawks are always a team that knows how to play the 49ers well, just like how we do against the Rams. But what's the more formula that you guys have the most success against the Niners? Like, because for some reason, you guys always have our number. And I like to know what Norbcam's got to say about this one.
Well, I look back, since we only have so many wins to look back on, I go back to the win against the 49ers and what happened in that game. Well, one big thing was Jimmy Garoppolo went out with the injury in that game, and Trey Lance was terrible. Trey Lance was horrific in that game. I don't know what you guys think of his performance, but Jimmy Garoppolo's shown that they definitely need him in there under center. And when he got knocked out of that game, it changed the entire the complex of the game. So complexion, I should say. So obviously, you guys have found your running game rhythm, something that Seattle has failed to do. I wish we could do that, but we haven't. And you guys still have weapons, even though I know Deebo Samuel's out and Fred Warner's out too, I believe. But I'm sure Samdogg would agree with me that in a normal situation, it'd be like, all right, Samuel's out and Fred Warner's out. We're going to win now because they got two of their big stars out. Well, we've run through this situation already where we said, hey, Kyler Murray's out and DeAndre Hopkins is out. We're going to win this game. Nope, that didn't happen. Hey, Chase Young and Montez Sweat's out. We should win that game. Nope, that didn't happen. So I'm not even buying into the fact that those guys are in there. I don't think you need those guys in there to beat us. It doesn't seem very hard because, to be honest with you, I don't even think it's the matchup against what the 49ers does to us that is really the issue, as much as it's Seattle is short-circuiting themselves. Our own offense cannot get a sustained drive against pretty much anybody. And 49ers got a good defense. You know, you still got Nick Bosa on the other side of the field. You got plenty of defensive weapons. Unless Seattle can find some way to get third downs, convert to first downs against that defense and stay on the field, it's going to be a long day no matter what happens. And our defense, credit to our defense, the one thing that they have been doing better on is our defense is playing better. They actually held Washington to one touchdown in the second half, made a lot of stops, got three and outs against the Washington football team, but it just wasn't enough because we couldn't generate any freaking offense. So if you can't do that, it doesn't even matter. It reminds me of like a baseball game where you got like a pitcher throwing practically a no-hitter or one-hitter, but if your bats can't score any runs, that's a wasted performance by your pitcher. So the defense can play great, but if the offense doesn't do something to get going, which is still puzzling because we still got weapons like Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, Gerald Everett. We're banged up in the running back field, but we still have enough weapons. And Russell Wilson, you'd think that they'd find a way to make it work, but they just haven't yet. So I'm waiting for that magic potion to suddenly come together and it all just clicks. But we've waited a long time and it hasn't happened after 11 games. So I don't know. That's kind of what I think at this point. I'm curious to see what you guys think in terms of the matchup. But I feel like 49ers don't have to do too much to really to beat what Seattle's been doing the best at, which is beating themselves.
CG, you're muted.
Since I agree with what you were going to say, Norbcam, the fact that you just said with our lesser talents, we should have no excuses on beating you guys. Like the fact that we're able to play with some other players. We got Elijah Mitchell coming for this game because the last time we played Seattle, we didn't have Elijah Mitchell out there. So even without Deebo Samuel, that's kind of a different kind of aspect of what we do in our offense. He's part of our running game, and he's definitely a part of our receiving game. But then again, Brandon Ayuk is breaking out. But then we got this Juwan Jennings guy. He's going to come into play and be an X factor. Maybe that's one player you got to watch out for. But George Kittle hasn't been used much in this offense. It's like we've been ignoring him a little bit. You know, like Deebo Samuel's like that new toy that everybody wants to play with, and George Kittle's like that old toy that nobody wants to play with no more. So it's kind of surprising that if we're going to play against Seattle, we need to use George Kittle in this passing game more. So I would expect nothing less. But what do you think, Samdogg?
Well, you got to especially use George Kittle because we've been very weak against tight ends this year. And to go back to what Norb was saying with how bad our offense is playing, we actually are ranked 32nd in the time of possession. So we are basically the worst in time of possession. And Deebo Samuel, he adds a completely different dimension to your guys' offense with the way that he's been running the ball on those jet sweeps, getting major chunk yardage and all those touchdowns he's been getting too. So, but regardless of that too, obviously you guys having Elijah Mitchell this time is going to make a huge difference in your running game because our defense has mainly been struggling against the run and tight ends. So I think for me personally, I think going into this game, I'm expecting it to be a long day for our defense, but just if our offense can't get anything going with, you guys rushing Bosa and Armstead and D Ford on Russell Wilson and our banged up offensive line, then our defense, if they're out there for as long as were like they were at Washington, they're going to be gassed and you guys are going to probably run away with it this time around too. And I'll probably be doing the Gatorade dump video on my head finally to pay it back to you, CG, after the times you've had to do it from our little thing that we. But it is what it is. I recognize the issues, and I'm just ready to just go into this battle, but hoping for the best and just ready to have some fun with it, though. But for Adrian Peterson coming in too, we'll see if he even plays at all. Too, granted, he is listed on practice squad because they said Rashad Penny still hasn't gone to the injury reserve quite yet. So that's the only other news that we've gotten on that too. So it's just how we got to approach it and what I'm expecting you guys to bring.
All right, Amin The Dream, you're next.
I mean, when you think of the Seattle versus Niners game, you always think it's going to be a good game, especially the last couple of years when the Niners and the Seahawks played. It always comes down to the last possession, or either the Niners stopped Seattle at the 1 yard line, or Seattle won it by a field goal. So for the last couple of years, it's been a pretty competitive game. But this year, the Seattle Seahawks have been struggling. And obviously, yes, Seattle has beaten us this year in the beginning of the season. But the biggest difference from the beginning of the season and now is that the Niners are running the football effectively. In the beginning of the season, the Niners were abandoning the run if the run wasn't working, and we run the ball maybe 10, 15 times. But now we're starting to run the ball 25, 30 times a game. And yes, Deebo Samuel and Fred Warner are going to be huge losses for us because Deebo, we line him up in the backfield. We use him as a wide receiver. But now we're running the football more, and Seattle's defense has just really not been that good. Even I watched Monday night, they were not really that good at stopping Antonio Gibson. So, I mean, if the Niners want to win this game, they just have to run the ball well, and that's what they've been doing for the last couple of weeks, and that's why they've been on a 3-game win streak, is because they've been sticking to what they're good at, and that's running the football down teams' throats. Because if the Niners want to win this game, you can't rely on Jimmy Garoppolo winning this football game. If this is a duel between Jimmy Garoppolo and Russell Wilson, who's going to win this game? I'm taking Russell Wilson over Jimmy Garoppolo. So if the Niners want to win this game, they got to run the football effectively.
Yeah, definitely agree on what you're saying. Amin The Dream, like the fact that this is going to have to depend on Jimmy going with the running game. With Russell Wilson, you don't need a really good running game. You just need the receivers to step up. Like DK Metcalf hasn't been fed the ball as much, Tyler Lockett's been the factor. I mean, it's kind of surprising that when I look at the overall talent, it's like, why is Russell Wilson not even throwing much on DK Metcalf lately? It's like he's like a good receiver. Like, he's a big target, but why is it the connection's not there? Is the offensive coordinator not really featuring him as much on the ball? Like, I'm just curious to ask from a Seattle's perspective.
So I think one thing that teams have figured out, and this is why Seattle's offense has been struggling. Teams have figured us out, and we haven't figured out a way to outsmart teams that have figured out how to stop the Seahawks. The blueprint is out. This is how you beat the Seattle Seahawks. On defense, you drop back 2 safeties, and you take away everything deep, and you force Seattle to throw underneath. With DK Metcalf, the reason he's not getting the ball is because they're bracket covering him. They're double teaming him, so they're kind of covering him short. They're covering him deep. That's why Lockett's been able to get some plays. That's why Gerald Everett's getting plays, because they're trying to keep DK out of the game. So they're working to keep that from happening. But what that means is they're going to have to, because they're taking away the deep ball, they're taking away DK, so they're going to have to hit Tyler, or you're going to have to hit the guys in the intermediate short passes, or we have to run the ball. We haven't been able to run the ball worth a jack. So that's problem number one. Number two is then we got to be able to run the shorter plays, throw the shorter balls, and it just hasn't been happening. The screen game for Seattle is non-existent. We are terrible at throwing screens, and we are terrible, but getting better at defending them. So if I'm the 49ers, you run that same thing. You take your corners, you take your safeties, you take away the deep ball, because I think Wilson is always wanting to throw the deep ball, more so than before. And if you watch that game Monday night, what were his biggest plays? It was those deep balls, right? He threw a deep ball, kind of crossing over, cross route to the other sideline to Lockett a couple times. He hit Freddie Swain down the middle. Of course, this was in the 2-minute drill. But outside of that, it's been hard to sustain drives, because if those don't go, we're left with third and longs. And then the problem is our offensive line isn't protecting well enough to give Russell the time to hit those long, deep passes that he wants. So we have this bad combination of Russ wanting to throw the deep ball being covered, and then an offensive line who can't protect long enough. So what does that mean? That means sacks, long third and longs, and no existent running game. So what's left? You got to find some short intermediate passing game or screen game, which we have sucked at. So that is the problem. That is why Seattle's offense can't do anything. And I don't know why they haven't been able to figure out a way, because Shane Waldron was supposed to come in and be the solution to that. He was supposed to bring the 49ers and Rams quick, West Coast, lots of running backs out of the backfield and tight ends and crossing routes, but we haven't seen it, and everyone's scratching their heads wondering why is that not happening, because that was the whole point in hiring Shane Waldron. So you want to beat the Seahawks, 49ers defensive coordinator, if you're listening, that's the blueprint. Do that, and you're gonna beat the Seahawks. If you don't, you're gonna get beat on deep passes, and you'll be wondering, how the hell did we not beat these guys? So there you go. That's the blueprint. Everybody knows it.
I think Nora pretty much covered it.
Hey Kyle, this is what I'm hearing from what they're saying from the play's perspective. Take away the plays from DK Metcalf, pressure Russell Wilson, and you should be able to feast on them. Let's see what Samdogg's got to say about this.
I think Norbcam pretty much summed it up right there with what he was saying right there too. One of my biggest issues with what Waldron was wanting to bring in, I wanted to see Waldron get Wilson and get rid of the ball faster, and yet Wilson, with some of the sacks he's taking, he's still sticking to that issue where he holds onto the ball too long, where preferably I would like to see more of the quick checkdowns to tight ends, kind of like the way Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady does with how fast they get rid of the ball. But with the way teams have figured out the Seahawks lately, it's been really tough. I'm really frustrated about the way that they haven't been able to get many balls to DK Metcalf, and DK has his rights to be pissed that he's not getting that many balls, because he knows that he can make an impact on plays even in some one-on-one coverages, but not doing those quick checkdowns and just the way that defenses have figured us out, it's been very frustrating. And like I mentioned, Norb pretty much covered it right there. He's pretty much taken every word out of my mouth on this. So yeah, pretty much how I feel about it. It's frustrating, but and not having a good offensive line too. Hence, I've been saying for a while, where we've done poorly in the last few drafts is building in the trenches. We got to do a lot better at building in the trenches in the future when we go into this rebuild that David McNew is saying down in the comment that you're showing on there too. So definitely got to fix those up, and I do expect a lot of sacks to happen just by how long Wilson holds onto the ball. He needs to get rid of the ball faster though too. But that's pretty much me.
Okay. Amin The Dream, who do you want to cover? As you're a defensive coordinator, who would you want to cover DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett if you were the DC?
Obviously, I'll put Mosley on DK because I feel like that would be a revenge game for Mosley, because last time he did pretty solid in the first half. He did pretty solid guarding DK, and then DK caught some balls on him in the second half. But I would definitely put Mosley on DK. Because I feel like they went up against each other in Seattle, and they've been up against each other in previous matchups. So I feel like that will be a good matchup again for DK Metcalf. Even I don't know if Emmanuel Mosley will be able to shut down DK completely, because DK is just a freak of a wide receiver. But I definitely think that's the best guy to put on him, because I feel like he's the best corner, especially with the Verrett injury. And then on Tyler Lockett, I would honestly just put Josh Norman on Tyler Lockett, because I wouldn't put K1 on Tyler Lockett. I would put only Josh Norman on Tyler Lockett.
Josh Norman.
Okay,
even though I hate Josh Norman, because Josh Norman just straight up sucks in coverage, but there's no other guy that would put on Josh Norman. We're not playing our rookies, so it's just one of those things where Josh Norman is our only available guy.
I remember when Josh Norman was on the Panthers, he was killer for Carolina at 20 season. Made that run to Super Bowl 50. Norman was a beast on that secondary back in that season. I remember that too.
Oh yeah, he was. Didn't he bring a baseball bat onto the field or something? Wasn't that his thing? He'd be all trying to intimidate the other team, bring a baseball bat, and wasn't that his deal? Am I right? Wasn't it Josh Norman who did that? Not anymore.
It's been a while back, just 2015. That feels like it was so long ago, but. Whew.
Yep, the last good year for Cam Newton. Back when he was smiling, doing the Superman thing, and doing all showboating and everything like that. And man, have times changed.
He was giving the ball. He was giving the football to the kid when he scored the touchdown.
He still does that. He still does that. He still.
Oh yeah. Too
It
bad for
just
that
doesn't
commercial.
happen it just doesn't happen as much as it used to. But,
Remember that commercial, that yogurt commercial used to have until you said something about a woman? Like, you used to be
that's
asking
right. He
questions.
lost that endorsement. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, here's a guy that's kind of intrigued by your channel. He's been asking for quite some time. LA Original. I guess he's asking a funny question.
Oh, LA Original. How did it feel to wear that Niners shirt? Oh, you're talking about, so if you haven't been to my channel, I do a lot of sketches. I do a lot of entertainment stuff. And I've been doing this. I got some, obviously with rivals being with the 49ers, I have a few videos where I impersonate 49ers fans with this particular character named Crisostamo, #1 Niner fan. Anyway, so I'm overdue. I might have to do a little video with him before the game on Sunday just to, do a little trash talking fun. But hey, man, it's all in the spirit of having fun, stirring up the rivalry. So I own gear from lots of other teams for these rivals videos. So I got no shame. It's all for the entertainment. You know what I mean? So. But yeah, it does burn and itch a little bit when I have to put that shirt on every time, though. I don't know what it is. Allergies or something. Not comfortable. Take one for the team.
I've seen those before. Like, I saw when you did it before the Monday night, and then every time you do, like, little music predictions, I see you do that character. I'm just like, oh, my God. And it, like, makes me want the Niners to beat the Seahawks even more. It's just, like, beat the Niners so that I can see Norb's reaction to see, like, what his reaction is if the Niners do beat the Seahawks. Because every time you do that character, it just irks me inside.
What? It irks you inside? Why? I don't understand. I'm beautiful. You should love me. Come on now. Hey, shout out to Tyler Parcher, my man. He's a big fan of my, not heavy. He's a big fan of my channel. He's watching this video today. So shout out to you, Tyler. Thanks for your dedication to watching my channel and everything. And he's asking about, am I doing a Madden sim? Because I always do a Madden simulation of the games that we play after we've done it. So I still have to do a Washington football team redo on Madden. I might do that tonight. So just to wash the bad stink of that loss and hopefully beat the Washington football team, at least virtually, on Madden. We'll see. Sometimes I get lucky. But thanks, Tyler, for watching and supporting CG's channel.
Oh,
Love
yeah,
you, bro.
so gotta definitely support the boys, CG. CG helped me broaden my horizons with some of the division rivals that have kind of given me crap in the past, kind of helped me bring a little peace between the rivals. So I definitely owe a lot to CG Ruthless for helping me broaden my horizons, getting me on that one NFC West roundtable with the AZ Sports Fan and the Rams Showcase. Just good times, man. Just great times. Hopefully more good times to come. And then, of course, that time when I spotted out the Pepsi Blue for CG Ruthless when he had a hard time finding it when they brought back one of my favorite sodas back in the early 2000s. So I definitely am grateful just to be on here, too. And then I need to know, guys, do you want me to try to get Adrian Peterson on my player interactions this Sunday if he's in the stadium? Granted, he is part of the practice squad for the time being. Should I try to interact with what should be a guaranteed surefire first ballot Hall of Famer? Just like to interact with him, just talk about in the Hall of Fame, saying like, man, you should be a freaking shoo-in for that, and can't wait to hear your speech, and enjoyed watching you play in your back in your prime years with Minnesota, and just how much you have left in the tank, I mean,
you don't even need to ask, Samdogg. You got to do it, man. You got to get AP on there, man. I think this was cool about having people have been asking, what about Adrian Peterson? Like, come on now. If we're expecting Adrian Peterson to come in here and be like he was from 10 years ago and tear up the place with 150 yards or something, you better check what you're smoking. But it'll be cool just to see him. Even today, I watched his press conference and saw him wearing a Seahawks uniform, and there's something cool about that. Just for nothing else, just for the fact that you're seeing a legend, a Hall of Famer, in your own hometown's uniform is pretty cool. But will he see the field on Sunday? I mean, he's got, 2 days of practice before he goes on there? Is he ready to actually take some carries? I don't know. We'll see. But maybe he'll get a few plays here and there. But, Mag, if you can get him on your camera interacting, that would be pretty sweet. Bring a cigar. Who knows? Maybe AP's a cigar man. Just bring it. You never know.
And speaking of that, Norb, you know that I got to give you your jerky pack. Stewart's.
Oh, yes. That's right. It was supposed to be a prime time beef jerky weekend, but it's not in prime time. But we'll have to do it during the afternoon hours. I always look forward to the beef jerky game, man. You bring that stuff, and it's been an annual tradition. Samdogg brings me the best beef jerky in the whole United States on this December game, and looking forward to it, man. It's gonna be awesome.
Hey, if CG Ruthless and Amin The Dream ever want to order it online, just go to Stewart's Meat Market. Like Google it, and it's in Yelm, Washington, and you can go online and you can order online, and they'll ship it to you. They ship it all over the world too. So if you want some of the best black peppered beef jerky and best Lane-Jaeger pepperoni sticks or elk or whatever good meat, you can hit up Stewart's Meats and you can order it. They can shrink wrap it for you, and they will ship it directly to your house down in California, CG and Amin The Dream. And of course, they'll ship it up to Renton unless Norb wants to make the long drive down from Renton to Yelm to go get some too for himself, which my dad did give me some. So thank you to my dad, Bill Strader.
Yes.
So
yeah, thank you.
If you didn't get another pack, I got to pick one up for Norb maybe the day before.
How about you ship me one? Bro?
Well, trust me with the website when I mention it.
All right. Okay, but let me ask you guys a question since you're talking running backs. I've looked into your starting lineups, and I don't even know which one's going to start this week. So can you guys give me some updates on the running backs who are playing? So,
isn't it Collins, right? Isn't it Alex Collins?
Alex Collins will be back number one. And he has been. Thing is, he's not 100% either. He was dealing with a groin for a while, and he had an abdomen injury that he's fighting through. So, but it'll be Alex Collins number one. I don't know, Rashad Penny, I don't know what his deal is. I was counting him out, but if it's not him, then I don't know if Travis Homer is back. DJ Dallas will be number two. He got some action last week. So probably those two guys. Travis Homer, he's kind of the third down back. He'll go if he's healthy enough. He was unavailable last week, so he might be back. I only saw one name on the injured list so far, and that was the left guard, former center Kyle Fuller, but I think it was Kyle Fuller. Anyway, so I don't know about Rashad Penny, but Rashad Penny's going to be good for one carry, then he's going to be out anyway. So hopefully it'll be Alex Collins, DJ Dallas, and Travis Homer. At least we have those three. And then, of course, AP for a play or two for fun. That's probably the backfield if Travis Homer is back on the lineup. I haven't heard yet if he's not.
And there were rumors about us possibly bringing Josh Johnson up from the practice squad, too. I remember Brennan Nelson video, too. So, I mean, if we were going to have this bad of a season, I mean, why not give some of the young guys more reps to give them more experience and get ready to build for that future, And I've seen Josh Johnson down, I think, by the tunnel for player interactions. People were wondering if they were going to bring him up and get him some reps, but then we ended up bringing in AP and, maybe – little veteran leadership just to, mentor some of these younger guys before he calls it a career. So, but I expect Buddha Collins to be the guy, which that was Alex Collins' nickname back at Arkansas was Buddha. I'd like to see a little bit more of DJ Dallas. Get DJ Dallas more experience. He can get some runs when he got some good holes too. And he's good on the dump off passes too. So yeah, it'll be interesting.
One thing we got to talk about that Seattle hasn't been doing a lot of great stuff. The defense has been improving like they did last year. They started out horrible last year, and then they've improved slowly over time. They're not great by any stretch of the word, but they're better than they were in the beginning. But one thing that has been great is our special teams play has been quite spectacular lately. Michael Dixon, the punter for the Seahawks, is probably the MVP because he's had to do so much work. He's putting in overtime, double overtime with the way the offense has been playing, but he's been pretty lights out from the kicking standpoint. He had a no-look kick against the Washington football team. It wasn't that mentioned because it's a punt. Nobody really gets excited about punters, but he was looking and basically got the returner to move towards his left, and then he line drive kicked it this way to the opposite side. Nobody saw it coming. I thought it was a shank, but it was actually an intended no-look kick, and they downed it without even a returner anywhere near him around the 10 or 15-yard line. Beautiful play. So the punter never gets enough recognition, but I'm telling you, man, Michael Dixon has been lights out, giving the defense as much field as they can. And then on that, we had the punt block, or sorry, the extra point block for a touchdown by Rasheem Green, which I know you guys saw if you watched the Monday night game, just to keep the game close. That was awesome. I don't know the last time somebody actually blocked an extra point and then returned it themselves. I didn't think he'd make it. I thought he was going to get caught from behind. He somehow just managed to truck his way way down the field and keep it interesting. So that was another special teams play. And then, of course, at the end, when we blew the 2-point conversion to tie the game and send it to overtime, we all thought the game was over. And what do? They actually get the very difficult, almost impossible thing to do, which is an onside kick recovery, only to have the special teams captain, Nick Valor, line up on the wrong side of the hash marks, negating the play and essentially sealing the Seahawks' fate in a loss, despite the fact that they converted this miracle onside kick, which could have possibly led to a game-winning field goal. But we never got to see it because the play didn't count. And that has been pretty much the Seahawks season all year long. Sucking most of the game, offense not doing anything, defense just doing enough, and then you get this close and then you blow it. That's been our season in a nutshell.
Yeah. So Amin The Dream. So what do you feel about what we can do against Seattle since they're coming off injuries? Do you feel like they're more of a dangerous team even though they had our numbers over the years? Do you feel like we have a chance to close it out against them?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that Seattle does have against our advantage is that Jimmy G against Seattle is 1-4. In his entire career, Jimmy G against Seattle is 1-4. So that is something to look at if you are a Seattle fan. But like I said before, the Niners want to win this game. They have to run the football down Seattle's throats. I'm not worried about our defense because last time when we played Seattle, the defense had like 5 straight 3-and-outs against Seattle, and the defense was playing well. They're getting pressure on Russell Wilson. I remember like Seattle scored a touchdown, but outside of that, it was the defense was just dominating, and the offense couldn't do anything. So I'm not really worried about the defense. I just worried a little bit if the offense can produce, and I hope that we stick to the run like we have been doing for the last couple of weeks because the run has really helped us, and that's why we've been on a 3-game win streak is because we've been running the football effectively.
Yeah, I remember that first run for a while. You guys held us to 8 below 0 for most of that game until got that drive before halftime when DK scored that first touchdown of that last game, and then we pretty much took over the game. I remember that, so definitely not sleep on your defense, and like I mentioned, I expect a whole lot of Elijah Mitchell this week too, so pretty much bring it on that one too. So good points right there.
I don't know if you guys are. I don't know if we're going to do a keys to the game, but I'll just throw my keys to the game right now. I kind of already alluded to them. I'm jumping the gun, CG. Hope you don't mind, but I've been saying this for probably a month now. The keys to the game for Seattle beating pretty much any opponent. It really comes down to, I think, 3 simple things. I think it'll apply here as well. But it's just going to come down to a couple of key categories and then one big one. One is, and these are kind of cliche, but turnover battle and sacks. I think if Seattle can be one better in both categories, we just need to have one of those categories go our way. And the third and most important key is time of possession. I think if Seattle can find a way to be within like 40-60 in terms of a ratio of time of possession, Seattle will win the game. Now, I don't know how they'll do it, but if they can make that number be that, they could win the game. The Seahawks have been one of the worst teams in terms of time of possession, which consequently is because they are one of the worst teams in terms of third down conversions. Horrible. But you get that time of possession to where it's not necessarily even, but close to, almost even, then that means they're doing something. That means they're sustaining drives, they're keeping the defense off the field, and they're moving the ball. Something that they have failed to do for a while now. So if they can somehow, by some miracle, find a way to turn that around, then I think they could win this game. And like I said, they got to be positive in one of those 2 categories. They got to get that time of possession, and they've got to either be plus one in the turnover battle or +1 in the sacks battle. If 2 of the 3 things happen, then we can win this game. How it's going to happen, I have no freaking idea. Pete Carroll's going to have to pull a rabbit out of the hat somewhere, or pull his gum out of the hat, whatever. Something's going to be pulled out of somebody's hat or somebody's you-know-what for this to happen, because we haven't seen it in over a month, and I don't know where it's going to come from. But that's the key. And if the numbers and the stats look anywhere like they have for the last month, you guys will win this thing, no problem.
Okay. All right. So keys to the game for the Niners in general. Definitely, we got to run the ball and maintain the time of possession, of course. So Seattle is going to come with nothing more to play for. So they have nothing to lose at this point. So this is a dangerous team when they are pretty much off the playoffs. Usually those are spoilers. But the best way to beat a spoiler team is to stick with your bread and butter, which is the running game. If we're able to kill time of possession and make sure to cover the receivers like DK Metcalf and all that stuff, then I believe we can be able to beat you guys with some turnovers and some crucial sacks and all the other stuff. But we got to make sure to not let Russell Wilson run for his life, because when he runs for his life, we're going to give up some chunk of yard plays. But for us to win, I think it just has to come down to the receiver stepping up, because there's going to be some situational downs to where Jimmy's going to have to step in and throw the ball, or either maybe he has to run for a first down, for all we know. But I know for the keys to the game for us to beat Seattle is we got to play angry. We got to come up with vengeance, because when you beat us at our home field, we had a bad taste in our mouth. So we want to come back with a bang and give you guys a message. So that's the way I look at the keys of the game. But let's get on to Samdoggs.
Yeah. Nor pretty much summed up the keys of the game for me, like he said. But most importantly for me, it's the time of possession. Since we are last in time of possession, it's for once trying to win a time of possession battle, maintaining drives and putting up enough points and getting our receivers going. But yeah, and then winning the turnover battle as well. And then, of course, maybe getting a sack or two. But most importantly, just getting 3 and outs and getting our defense off the field, but our offense keeping long drives alive with time of possession to give our defense enough rest to try to get back out there to help try to win the game and get pressure and shut down the receivers and that too. But Norb once again, Norb is killing this stream right now. He's summing up everything perfectly so far. So props to Mr. Norbcam as always.
I just feel like I've just been saying the same thing over and over again, thinking it's going to happen this week. And it just keeps repeating like a really bad rerun over and over and over again. And it seems like a very simple thing to fix, but nobody seems to know how to fix it. And that's the most befuddling thing about this team this year, is that to me the solution is very clear, but they don't know how to get it there. But I will say this before, I know Amin's got to do his keys to the game too, but this could be a strangely shocking game for the Niners, because the only thing I feel like we have going for us is the fact that Seattle's playing so bad and the 49ers are playing so good. There's not a soul on this planet who thinks there's any reason why the 49ers should lose this game, which might be the only thing that Seattle has going their way. And one of those strange things where an upset that makes no sense could be lingering in the shadows. So I'll just leave it at that.
And then Corey Davis just asked the question, said, oh, sorry, go ahead, Aman.
So the biggest keys to the game for the Niners if they want to win this game is that I've said it before like 3 times on the stream already, so they have to run the football well. And when they run the football well, the Niners have been 3-0 because the last couple of games they've been running the football and they've been sticking to what they're good at, which is running the football. So if the Niners want to win this game, they have to run the football. You're not going to win this game by relying on Jimmy Garoppolo. We saw it in San Francisco in the beginning of the season. You relied on Jimmy Garoppolo. You made Jimmy Garoppolo throw like 25 to 30 times, and you only ran the ball like maybe like 15 to 20 times, and you weren't able to win the football game because you relied on Jimmy Garoppolo to make the throws. And he did it the first drive, but then after that, Jimmy Garoppolo just fell apart, threw an interception, second drive, and then he just couldn't do anything. The offense just was completely absent, just how Norbis couldn't say that about the Seahawks offense. And then the keys for the Seahawks, if they want to win this and beat the Niners, that I feel like for the Seahawks is how well Russell Wilson plays. Because I've said this in the offseason, in the beginning of the season, in the offseason, the years before, is that if you look at the Seahawks, without Russell Wilson, you think of them as a rebuilding team. But with Russell Wilson makes the plays. He's the guy that takes them to the playoffs for the last couple of years. For the last couple of years been putting up MVP type numbers. So the Seahawks want to win this game. Russell Wilson has to play well, and he has to pull out all the tricks for him to beat them if they want to beat the Niners.
Yep.
Samdogg, you mentioned the chat. There's a super chat in there from Corey Davis. Says he came here late, so forgive me. No, we don't forgive you. Shame on you for being late to the stream. Just kidding. But you said, have you ever answered the question, Norbcam or Samdogg? Well, I like to say Samdogs. You're plural now. You're not just a singular dog. You're Samdogs. So just know that you've been pluralized. Will Russell Wilson be gone or Pete Carroll? Samdogg, since you're plural and there's more than one of you now, I'm going to let you answer that question. What do you think? Do you think Russell Wilson or Pete Carroll or none or both?
I'll be honest
will
with
be gone
you.
next year.
Much I hate to say it, especially after what Pete did for me with having that jersey made for me and everything too. I'm grateful for all he's done and definitely grateful for the run we've had with Pete and Russell. And it's been a hell of a run, but if anything happens first, I think it'll be the coaching staff that gets affected first. So I kind of think Pete Carroll will probably be the one that's out first, unfortunately. I mean, and I try not to say anything bad because I got nothing but grateful appreciation for him being one of the first coaches to recognize what I do by the tunnel, what I've been doing, getting players fired up for all those years and recognizing me for it. And then when he noticed my old jersey when I was down in Los Angeles saying that we had to give me that new jersey and doing that for me. I mean, but a lot of times you need to change the philosophy on how you run. Like, we got to catch up with the times. Like, we got to get a nice, young, offensive-minded coach, to catch up with the high-flying offenses, much like what Cliff Kingsbury is running with Arizona, much like what Sean McVay is running with the Los Angeles Rams, and kind of like what Kyle Shanahan's brought to the 49ers offense, too, because Kyle Shanahan's made a big difference with with the offense that he had, especially with the way he was kind of running it when he was the OC for the Atlanta Falcons, too, before he went out to San Francisco. So I kind of think it's going to be Pete Carroll first, but whatever happens, happens. And I'm never really one to try to – usually for me, I think the first changes usually got to come with the coaching staff with how bad things are going. So it's got to be the coach first before the quarterback. But whatever happens, happens. And I'm just a fan regardless, too. Still going to go to the games no matter how bad we are and just keep doing what I do best.
So, Samdogg, I'm gonna offer you a different side of that as an answer to that equation, to the question that was asked. Pete Carroll or Russell Wilson, who will be gone? I'll save my answer for the end. But I would say this, because you said we need to get a new coach because we need to bring in a more offensive-minded coach who in the high-flying offense. But let's look at the 49ers, the team we're about to play on Sunday. What has been their formula for this 3-game winning streak? Has it been a high-flying offense that is throwing the ball all over the yard? Absolutely not. We just heard Amin say the keys to the game, don't let Jimmy Garoppolo throw the ball. Run the freaking ball, which is the exact opposite of what a lot of people are feeling Pete Carroll needs to do. Pete Carroll's a run-oriented defensive-first coach, right? Well, based on the 49ers, that's exactly what they're doing. Defense first, run the football, and it's been working for them. I don't think that philosophy is wrong. I think the running game is important, and even to the Rams' offense as well. You need to have a running game. The problem is we haven't had the running game. Part of it is because Chris Carson's been gone most of the season. Part of it is because our offensive line hasn't been very good. But it's not solved by throwing the ball all over the place, which is exactly what Seattle's still trying to do, and they're not doing it effectively because teams have figured out how to shut that down. So I argue that I don't think Pete Carroll's going to be gone next year, and I don't think Russell Wilson will be gone next year. I think they will both be back next year, believe it or not. As much as everybody wants to fire somebody because people, right, these days people get so upset when they don't like something that's going on, they want it fixed. This is pissing me off. I'm going to get rid of that. You're annoying me. I'm going to unfriend you, block you, whatever. My wife is pissing me off. Just divorce her. That dog is annoying. Kick him out. Kick him to the curb. We want to fix everything right now. And if something is bothering us, we want to blame somebody and then get rid of that person that we blame or that thing that we blame. Sometimes they just got to work things out. And we've only our one season, not even the season yet, removed from a 12-4 team that won the division last year. Granted, I know we had problems at the end of the season last year, but I feel like this thing can still be fixed and that it's not to the point of being unfixable. I'm in the minority on this because everybody wants somebody fired. Maybe both, maybe one way or the other. But I contend that this thing can still be fixed. Pete Carroll is the number one guy with power in the organization below Jody Allen. And unless the owner Jody Allen decides for herself that a change needs to happen, Pete's not going to fire himself. So she's the only one who can fire Pete Carroll. I don't think that's going to happen. And Russell Wilson, unless he wants the hell out right now, he's the only guy who's going to force himself out of Seattle, because I don't think Pete Carroll's going to want to get rid of him himself. I don't think anyone in the organization is going to want to get rid of him. And he really has still 2 years left on his contract. So he's not going anywhere unless Russell puts his foot down and says, I want out, I want to trade, get me the heck out. So the only person who's really motivated to leave is if Russell Wilson is motivated to leave. So I think Russell Wilson is more likely to leave before Pete Carroll, because the powers that be, Pete has more power than Russell. And Russell may not want to be here. And if that's the case, this marriage won't work out, because he's going to want to be gone. And if he wants to be gone, nothing's going to stop that.
Here's another question I got for you, Norb.
Yeah,
All right.
That's a great point.
All right, so ask a question, Samdogg. What are you going to say?
Yeah, I was going to ask Norb, if Russell Wilson does move on, do you possibly think about possibly tanking 2022 and trying to go for, because I heard 2023 has a good quarterback class coming up. Let me know in the chat if that's true, if there's a really good quarterback class coming up in 2023. Like, Norb, if we get rid of Russell Wilson, do the Seahawks possibly think about tanking for that number one pick to try to get one of the best upcoming quarterbacks in that next draft?
Well, I'll tell you what, man. This is already a bad season. We already look like we're tanking. If Russell Wilson leaves, we won't have to try to tank. We will probably tank on our own in all reality. But I don't believe teams ever actually try to tank. There's too many players who are, even if the players themselves don't try to lose games, because they're playing for their next job. Even if they go, hey, the next year, number one draft pick, those players are going, I don't care about that guy. I need to make sure I have a job next year. So they're still going to be playing as hard as they can. Assistant coaches are going to be trying to play for their job. The offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, they want to win because they don't want to look bad and they get fired next year, even if they get the number one draft pick. So I don't think anybody really tries to play to lose for some greater gain. I think that's something the fans manufacture in their head there, because they're thinking, hey, next year if we tank, we can get blah, blah, blah in the next year's draft. That only works for us because we have fantasy and we have these ideas, because we don't care about what happens to anybody else. We just want our team to win. Maybe the owner plays that string, but really, there's too many pieces that everybody. That's why I don't buy into the conspiracy theories that the league is fixed and these guys are trying to manipulate the game because they want this result and that result. There's too many players that are trying to win out there, and I don't think teams tank on purpose. They're just bad, right? The Lions aren't trying to be winless. They just suck, or they just have bad luck. They've had bad luck. They lost on a 64-yard field goal that bounced off a crossbar and went in. That's bad luck. You can't plan that crap. So same thing with the Seahawks. You can't plan a game where they could have won. They could have beaten. Can you imagine if they had beaten Washington on an onside kick and then gotten a game-winning field goal and won, where they were being demolished like 4-1 in the yardage and over double the time of possession? Can you imagine the fallout in Washington if they'd actually lost that game? But they didn't. But that would have been crazy if something like that had happened. Anyway,
What was Amin going to say?
Amin's got something. I've been talking too much.
No, I was going to say, since he brought up the point about Russell Wilson and how Seattle should be running the football. I mean, what the thing about the Niners is that the Niners run the football is because we don't. Kyle doesn't have any faith in Jimmy Garoppolo to throw the football downfield. You have a quarterback who can throw the football downfield in Russell Wilson. But the problem in Seattle is that you guys just don't have the offensive line to do that. Where with Russell Wilson, the issue isn't that Russell Wilson can't do that. Obviously, this year he has that finger injury, but we've seen Russell Wilson can do that. But the biggest issue with the Seahawks, the reason that they can't do that is because the offensive line is just bad. And even last game, the Seahawks probably ran the football 10 times last game. In total, the Seahawks ran the ball 10 times last game. So Seattle, they have a quarterback who can throw the ball downfield, but the biggest issue with Seattle is they just don't have the offensive line to do that.
And that's what I'm
well said. Well said, man. Yeah.
And that's what I've been saying most of the time, that the Seahawks in these last few years have really been missing on the trenches. And that's why I've really been preaching about doing better in building on the offensive line in the trenches. Trenches matter in this league, too. There are three very important things in this league in order to have a good team. Number one, you got to have the quarterback. Number two, you got to have the offensive line. And number three is the pass rush. So quarterback and trenches, obviously being the top two. I got that from my dad. My dad always has taught me that you got to have the quarterback and the trenches in order to be good, but mostly the offensive line. I mean, look back at 2000. The last time our offensive line truly was great was when we had Walter Jones and Steve Hutchinson in that 05 offensive line with Robbie Tobeck and Sean Locklear and Chris Gray, and then also Floyd Womack too, that 2005 Seahawks team. So personally for me, which is why when the Jamal Adams trade, I never liked giving up the amount of draft stock that we got, which the Jets are going to have an obvious good pick, but coming up in 2022, if we have to rebuild it the way it is with late round picks, just main focus for that, focus on the trenches, offensive line. That's what I really want to see us get back to. And like I mentioned, it's just got to be the offensive line.
I mean, offensive line matters in football. We saw it in the Super Bowl. Patrick freaking Mahomes couldn't do nothing because the offensive line was banged up and the offensive line could not protect him. Patrick freaking Mahomes is like the best quarterback right now in football. Yeah. He was arguably the most talented quarterback in football. In the Super Bowl, he didn't have his offensive line and the offense couldn't do nothing. Mahomes with the offense, with a good offensive line. Patrick Mahomes is capable. Same thing with Russell Wilson. But if you don't have the offensive line, he had Tyreek, he had Travis Kelce, he had Sammy Watkins. Mahomes had all those weapons, but the offensive line just couldn't protect him, so he couldn't get the ball to his receivers. Same thing with Russell Wilson. Russ has the receivers. He has DK. He has Tyler Lockett. He has Darrell Henderson. He has guys, but the offensive line just can't protect Russell Wilson.
Yeah, and then Patrick Mahomes.
That's a great example. That's a great example. And so that's why when I talk about, well, who's to blame on this, I think you could blame the offensive line, but who is at fault for creating that offensive line? And that does fall back to the GM and Pete Carroll for the guys that he drafted. They tried to fix the offensive line, but they've also missed on a lot of their drafts, picking guys who didn't pan out, passing on guys who would have really helped the team. We could have gotten a great center this year, but we didn't do it. And so that is something that those guys have to be accountable for. But does that justify firing them? Maybe they need to fire their scouts, because that seems to be the problem. Their draft scouting has not been good since 2012. So, that is the key. But how do you fix the offensive line? You can't just buy 5 new guys and go, hey, we need an offensive line. Bing, there you go. Let's get 5 guys in here. That's hard. They're expensive. They don't grow on trees. You got to draft them. You got to do some free agent stuff. You got to develop guys within your own organization. I mean, it's a slow process, but you don't fix an offensive line overnight. It's a multi-stage process.
I mean,
one thing
that's real. Mahomes after that Super Bowl restructured his contract, and then the freaking Chiefs were able to build that offensive line around Mahomes. They got Joe Tooney. They got that freaking former Rams former center, and then they made that trade for Orlando Brown from the Baltimore Ravens. They were just able to bolster up that line all because Mahomes took a page from Tom Brady after that Super Bowl and restructured the contract too. I mean, and cap space matters in this league. I mean, we know how much of the cap space Wilson's taken up and how much they paid Jamal Adams. So it matters. Wilson's got to freaking restructure. But to that Jets fan down there, Jets gang, enjoy that pick that you're gonna get. But I guarantee you're still not gonna do crap with those picks because the Jets haven't been the same since 1968, since Joe Namath made that deal with the devil to get Super Bowl III. Look up top 10 NFL football curses of all time, and you'll see Namath's deal with the devil to why the Jets haven't been irrelevant since 1968. Just had to point that out just for fun.
All right, so let's do a prediction score, and then we can just have our final say, because I know you guys got some stuff to do after this. So I'll go first on the prediction. All right, so this matchup for the 49ers and Seahawks, it's going to be an intense game. It might just come down to the wire. The way the 49ers can beat the Seahawks is simply running the ball, but if Seattle takes away the running game and force Jimmy G to throw, it can go either way. So as far as I look at this core prediction, I know it kind of sounds like it, but I might need to pull a page off of Norbcam a little bit, but then it would be kind of high jinx way, You should beat us because you're spoilers. Remember that. But then again, we'll beat you this time. So I think we'll win by 7 points, 24-17. So just dream about it, Seattle fans. Maybe you could beat us.
Oh, I guess it's my turn. Okay, so I'm going to go with, I already said that I think Seattle's going to lose this game. I'm going to go back to my 2021 Seahawks music prediction video where I predicted back in September that we were going to lose this game, 30-24. I will take that same score. I'll say that like you said, it's going to be a 6-point, in my case, a 6-point loss. It might be less scoring than that. 30-24 might be a little high in reality, but I still think it's going to be a 6-point differential where the 49ers beat us by 6 points or about a touchdown. But unless some of those keys happen, there could be that crazy, zany little bounce of the ball that goes one way, a little fumble here or there that causes the time of possession to go in our favor. But unless some wacky stuff happens our way, pound for pound, like two fighters going at it for multiple rounds, I don't think Seattle's going to be able to hang. We're going to need a little help from the football gods. But I got 49ers beating us by 6 points.
Yeah, unfortunately, I got the 49ers beating us too. I won't say a score. Me and Dallas did it in our game picks, but for all we know is if we crap the bet as hard as we did the last couple of weeks and not win a time of possession, you guys could probably run it up by double digits. Just saying for me. So unfortunately, I picked the 49ers to win this game too, but we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting. I'm not going to do a score because I usually just let the scores happen. I've never really been good at predicting scores. So CGU and Nor basically know that well.
Well, shout out to your Norbcam, your music prediction video, because I check those out every year. Okay, I check those out every year. And the 30-24, I feel like the Niners wouldn't be able to score 30. I don't think the Seahawks are going to score 24. But I think the Niners are going to get this one. Usually when the Niners do play the Seahawks, it's always a competitive game. It always comes down to the last possession, the fourth quarter, whatever it might be. And it's always a close game. But since Seattle has been struggling, that offense has been struggling, I think the Niners are going to get this one 24-16. I think the Niners, if they do run the ball and they stick to what they're good at, even if the run isn't working at first, I hope they don't abandon it, because that's why we were losing some games at the beginning of the season, because the run just wasn't working at times, and Kyle Shanahan would just completely abandon the run and then be like, Jimmy, we're going to put the team on your back and you have to throw the ball and win us the game, and he just wasn't able to do that. So even if the run isn't working and they do stop the run a little bit, I just hope the Niners continue to run the ball down the Seattle Seahawks throats, because that's the only way they're going to win this game. But I'm going to say 24-16, Niners win this one.
All right, so I'm going to give you guys your final saying, and then we're going to end the stream. So I'm going to go with Norbcam.
All right, and I want to do a score change. I said 30-24. I think it'll be lower scoring. I still say it's by 6. It's going to be 11-5. Has that score even happened ever in the history of football? 11-5. Wouldn't you love to see that? A crazy game where the final score is 11-5. I don't even know how that could be possible. A safety and a field goal, and a touchdown, a 2-point conversion, and a field goal. I would love to see 11-5. But I'd rather see a Seahawks win. Anyway, that's it. I hope I'm wrong. I hope you guys are wrong. I would love to see you guys miserably scratching your heads going, how the hell did we lose to this horrible last place team that was 3-8? I'm hoping that happens, and you never know. It's always the Seahawks 49ers, like you said. I mean, it's always crazy close games when it comes to these two teams, and wackier stuff has happened. So I'm just hoping for a good game, something that's entertaining, back and forth. And even if we lose, if it's a good game, I'll be happy to just see that. But we'll see what happens. But I appreciate you having me on the show, CG. It's been a pleasure. I mean, it's great to collab with you, and of course, Samdogg, the infamous 253. I will be seeing you again before the season's up. We got to do our jerky thing, so that's going to be fun on Sunday. But if you want to see my content that I do for the Seahawks, a lot of wacky stuff on there, from music videos to game reactions during the game, at the stadium, vlogs talking about the team, and entertainment sketches, the whole nine. So come check me out and on YouTube and social media at Norbcam. Thank you, guys.
And no problem, Norbcam and Samdogg.
Well, I'm hoping for the best. Just still, I hope that we can at least have some wins to smile about, and whatever happens. But I'm hoping for a really good competitive game. And usually for me, like I mentioned, I do my player interaction, so make sure you guys come to that video. I will be live at the stadium before the game when I'm in there interacting with players and coaches and getting them fired up for games and other content than that too. Whenever the Seahawks don't play on weekends, me and my buddy Dallas, who I mentioned I do the game picks with usually on Tuesdays, we would always go live for NFL Red Zone, and we would watch Red Zone and react to all the games and all the big plays and who wins or who loses, and put the check marks in on the teams that win on our game pick papers. And that's one of my all-time favorite things. We just did our last Red Zone reactions last Sunday because the Seahawks played back on Monday at Washington. So our Red Zone reactions are pretty much finished for the year. off of football, I got exotic car videos, and every once in a while, you might catch a good rap concert out of me too, like at a rap concert. The last one I did was Ice Cube at the Washington State Fair. Make sure you guys check out that video. Other than that, pretty cool. Love talking football. Love talking about moves that happened during the offseason and free agency and reacting to the draft. But once again, CG, thank you for having me on once again. And my usual saying at the end of my videos is, if you ain't with it, you ain't infamous. And as always, go Hawks. Once again, CG, thank you once again, brother.
All right, no problem. For Amin The Dream, final saying, then we're going to end the stream.
I appreciate you for having me on the channel. You know, it was great to meet you, Norb, and meet you, Samdogg Infamous. And you know, I hope the Niners get a W this weekend against the Seahawks, because it's just one of those things where we're favored against the Seahawks. I just hope we pull through, especially because I want to see the Niners make the playoffs. And you can also find my YouTube channel at Amin The Dream, and my Twitter handle is at Amin The Dream 13. So if you are a Niners fan, go do check it out. I have amazing guests on there, and I do streams weekly. So do check that out, and hope the Niners get a W this Sunday.
All right, and I just subscribed to you too. I mean, I just checked you out during some breaks during the stream, so check your notifications. You will see that I just subbed up your channel. So just want to let you know that.
Appreciate it.
All right, guys. So thank you guys for being on the show, and most of all, I appreciate Norbcam for being on the show. The guy with the most funniest humors in the Seattle vidmaker, and my boy Samdogg The Infamous, since I've known for a couple of years, a good dude and good friend of mine. A good close friend that calls behind the scenes. You know, he's a good dude. And Amin The Dream, I've got to know you for a little while, and you got some good takes, and I've seen you come around, man. Keep on doing what you're doing, dude, and you're going to hit off. I mean, I see your channel almost like halfway to 1,000 subscribers, and you're like at least 13 or 14 years old, bro. The more you keep on grinding, the more you're going to get bigger, dude.
Let's just juice him up, man. Get him juiced up to that 1,000 mark, man.
Yeah. All right, guys. So, as always, man, we'll probably do it down the road.
Yes, sir.
All righty.
Yeah.
All righty.